And it's my great pleasure today to welcome everyone for being here. As I said, this is the 5th signing, and I think it's been a remarkable success. It's something that was started by and continues to be driven by students. So this is completely a student initiative. And remarkably, this is the same students that started this are the ones that pushed the whole sustainability agenda within the department and made sure that we were putting our mouth where our money was and integrating sustainability features throughout the curriculum. So they've had a huge influence on the department as a whole and a big influence, I think, on everyone who comes to sign this and takes on the promise. So thank you for coming, and I hope you enjoy the evening.
So I'd like to take a couple of moments just to tell you a little bit about the history of this club, of the Promise, as well as look at a couple of the key messages. I know that everybody is going to be very soon picking up their certificate, but just for the family and friends out there, just to get you a little bit more familiar of what we're really about. So this idea began a long time ago, in the 1970s, by a man called Jacques Cousteau. He was an oceanographer, a great environmentalist. And he wrote a Bill of Rights to future generations in the 1970s because he realized that aside from a very weak ethical duty, there's no real duty in law to protect the rights of future generations. So he went out and wanted to convince the United Nations to change their perspective, to start thinking long term. Unfortunately, the idea really didn't get very much traction with the United Nations, but it's one of those things that 30, 40 years later, it's still very important. There's a lot of messages that still resonate within our society today. So in about third year, a professor whom most of you know, Kim Presnell in the Civil Engineering Department, approached Marianne and myself with this document, and he said, well, why don't you guys read it? It's pretty hefty. It's got a lot of really important messages, and he wanted to see what we thought. And we thought it was a very, very powerful document, but we wanted to see what the rest of our class thought. So we showed it to the class, we took a poll, and the responses that came back were overwhelmingly positive. Students really liked it, they really liked the messages, they thought, this is something that everybody needs to know about. So over the next year, we spent a bit of time reworking the document, making it a little bit more applicable to engineers. Soon after, we realized that this is not just for engineers to sign, this is really for everybody to take note and really to take those principles at heart. So with a lot of the certificates that you'll see today, it's not just about engineers, it's really about citizens of the world. Now, you see here the document. It's mainly comprised of two parts. You have the preamble at the beginning and the articles. Now, the articles are very little has changed from Jacques Cousteau's original work. They really look at the principles to live by, while the preamble really concentrates on the values of the signatory. So I'd like to take, over the next couple of slides, just a couple of excerpts from the preamble, just to see what some of the key messages are. I hope that all generations will have the opportunity to enjoy the bountiful world I've come to know. Oh, this is on a slide. Okay, so just bear with me. The slides may be going back and forth, hopefully not. With this excerpt, we really recognize that we live in an incredible world. I know Toronto U of T students come from many different parts of the world, and there's just so many amazing things. Without sounding too cliche, there's so many amazing parts on this earth. And we have a duty to protect these types of places. The natives had a really interesting saying that very much applies to this. They said that you don't inherit the earth from your parents, you loan it, you lease it from your children. And that's, I think, a very large shift in thinking. We're just here for a short time, and we have to be able to pass things on in a better state than we've left them. I believe in the worth and dignity of all people, present now and in the future. Oh, thank you. Well, bear with me. In a Western world, we are really privileged. We have the privilege to think about tomorrow, about next week, about 10 years from now. And not everybody has that luxury. There's a lot of people that are just concentrated on making it through the next hour, getting their next meal, making it through the night. So with this privilege also, I think, comes a great responsibility to really think about the future and to really ensure that the dignity of all people, all walks of life, are represented in our actions. I believe that the consequences of humanity's decisions can threaten the ability of future generations to meet their needs, to fulfill their dreams, and to determine their destinies. So here, we're recognizing that our world is almost obsessed with short-term thinking. Governments are only around for a couple of years, if even that. Banks often look only towards the next quarter. So it's very much ingrained in our way of life, just thinking about short-term solutions. And at the same time, we almost forget our impacts on future generations to really meet their needs. And a lot of the time, we're almost leaving the consequences of our actions for somebody else to deal with. And is that fair? Is that an ethical thing to do? If I can do something to change this world, let me begin now. Today, I declare this promise. Tomorrow, we shall face these challenges together. We really wanted to highlight this quote because as new graduates, ready to enter the workforce, a lot of the time, it may seem like, well, I'm too young to start these changes now. I'm going to get hired by, the first company, I'm going to have a long-term career with. Well, maybe I can start in 5 or 10 years. And we really want to see that, no, you can start this now. And a lot of the time, even as new graduates, there's so many possibilities, so many opportunities for you to start making changes the next day, today, even. My journey, a product of my choices, shall not be bound by the practices of the past, guided by the best foresight that our understanding can provide. Together, we shall find reasonable solutions that will make future generations proud. So here we really look at, in terms of progress, where are we going in the future? And in the past, we have started to make some pretty amazing changes. But with this portion of the promise, we just want to say that we shouldn't be afraid of doing things differently, not following status quo. And a lot of the time that can be very stressful, very daunting. But, sometimes the best solutions are absolutely new solutions, things that other people in the past haven't thought of. I believe that all life is precious and inseparable from the environment. I'm just waiting for it to switch to the next slide. Now, once again, this is a very cliche picture, a beautiful polar bear mom and cub. I think it's a very powerful message. A lot of the time, living in great cities, we sometimes forget that we are connected to every other life form on Earth. And it's one of those things, when we start affecting those other ecosystems, those other life forms, ultimately, we're affecting our own abilities to survive. So it's very important to make sure that, that disconnect, that we sort of get past that mental disconnect with our environment. I believe that if we all do our part to make part of the world better, that we can influence, part of the world that we can influence better for us and better for future generations, then collectively we can make our grandchildren proud. So it's one of those things, as new graduates, there's a lot of challenges to face. And there's no silver bullet. We're not going to solve all of these problems. Not a single person is going to be solving all of these problems. And I think it's very important to sort of realize that everybody has a sphere of influence. And if you start making those changes within that sphere of influence, it's almost like the butterfly, the ripple in the lake. Those sort of small changes by different people can really start making big, big impacts. So definitely starting small, but really gearing towards large changes. And I just wanted to briefly talk about the registrar, over the last couple of years, we've had over 230 promised signatories, which is really exciting. We're very happy to have graduating students, alumni, staff, professors of this university and other universities sign this document. And the registrar, once you pick up your certificate, the registrar you're going to sign, you're really becoming part of a community that is there as support. Because as you sort of partake in your professional and your personal lives, there's definitely going to be challenges that you're going to come up against. And I think there's great power in numbers to sort of lean on others who share the same values as you for support through some of those difficult decisions. So we'd really like to welcome you to this new community. And once again, thank you so much for being here, and congratulations to all the new graduates. So I'd like to welcome Maria, Diane, and Marianne, who will be handing out the certificates. We'll be calling people by name, so when you hear your name, please come up, pick up your certificate, and sign the register.
Paul Furbacher. Rossini Martyr. Louis. And Khalil Stoney. Alyssa Sydney Edmonds.